Has this ever happened to you? You book your dream wedding, you're ready to go, you head to the venue, you open your camera bag, and you forgot your cameras. Okay, so maybe that's a stretch, but what I want to do is I want to walk you through the checklist, the things that I make sure that I have before I even leave my studio to go to the wedding. This is the pre-wedding photographer checklist. Let's get into it right now. You know, I always tell myself, I just have to go out and give it my all, no matter what anybody's trying to do to hold me back. The key is to keep hustling and keep putting out those bangers. And I always have to remember, no matter what, I am Josh Russell. What's going on, everyone? I'm Josh Russell, professional wedding photographer and portrait photographer based out of Green Bay, Wisconsin and Orlando, Florida. If this is your first time, thanks for coming. Now, some of this is going to be pretty obvious. Some of it might be kind of a shock to you. Some of it's stuff that you probably never even thought of having. But I promise everything that's on this list is going to help you make the wedding day run super smooth. Okay, so the first one, it's obvious. Make sure you have your cameras, but I do want to go in a little deeper with this and let you know a little bit more, and not just have your camera, but make sure you have a backup camera. Sometimes even bring a second backup camera. When I go to weddings, I have 3 cameras with me, and then my wife Casey also has a camera with her. So at all times, there are at least 3 to 4 cameras on every wedding with me. What happens if camera 1 breaks, falls, cracks, snaps, something happens, you drop it in a lake, any of this, you can't just leave the wedding because your camera broke. I mean, you are contracted in to be there a certain amount of time, capture these photos, and let's say that you are dead in the middle of the ceremony and this happens, you can't just leave. So make sure you have a backup camera. Make sure it's very close to you. You got to make sure you have a backup camera, because if camera 1 breaks, you're screwed if you don't. The other reason to have 2 cameras is because you can run multiple lenses at the same time. Now with me, I keep a Sigma 85 on my main camera, and then I also have a Sigma 35 on my other camera, my backup, because what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to capture both up close and wider shots at the same time, or quick switch and get both of them. So that's why I run multiple cameras, because I want to be able to make sure that I can capture both angles and not have to stop. I have both ready. Be prepared right before the ceremony and make sure that you can capture both angles at the same time. Okay, so the second thing that I want to talk about goes along with that, and that's lenses. Make sure that you have multiple lenses for any situation. The ones that I suggest you have is a 70-200, which is going to be your telephoto, your zoom lens, some type of prime lens, whether it's a prime 50mm, prime 85, the 35 is a little wider, some type of prime lens. And the reason that I say have a prime lens is because prime lenses are a little bit sharper than what these telephoto lenses are going to be. Now, I know this is a discussion that happens all the time, but it's something to remember. From my perspective, my opinion is prime lenses are a little bit sharper. The only downside is you don't have that zoom, so you're going to have to walk in and out as you take these photos. But I like my prime lenses. It's pretty much all I use. I do have a 16-35 wide angle that I bring with me. It very rarely gets used. My wife Casey, she likes to shoot on the 100-400. That way she can stand in the back and pretty much just snipe people from way in the back and get the up-close reactions without being in my way or interfering with the wedding. So that's another thought. With your second, maybe put them on a tight telephoto lens, a big one. I know those are investments, but it can help, definitely. Okay, so number 3 that I want to mention is a very important one as well, and that is an empty formatted SD card. This is very important. That is an empty formatted SD card. And I should say that you should have multiple empty formatted SD cards. And the reason is because if you have an SD card that has some information already in it, it can corrupt easier than if it's formatted, ready to go. Another thing that allows is easier storage management later, because you're not trying to find out, okay, this wedding was from here, this headshot session was this date. You don't need to. If it's formatted, you just copy the whole card directly into a folder on a hard drive, you're good to go. The reason that you should bring multiple is because most mirrorless cameras and cameras these days in general allow you to put dual cards in. And what that's going to allow you to do is, if you have 2 SD cards in, you can capture the images on both cards in case one takes a crap on you. That way that you capture it and you don't lose everything. You have a second card. And then you need extras in case you fill it up. Now, I know that there are huge SD cards now. I have 400 gigabyte ones in both my cameras. I understand that you're probably never going to shoot that many, but there's a potential that you could just have the wedding of your day and you're just snapping photos all day long. And if this happens, you want to make sure that you're able to capture everything all day long. So bring empty formatted SD cards. Number 4, Fully charged batteries. Don't forget to charge your batteries days in advance or a day in advance. Make sure that you have multiple backup batteries fully charged, ready to go. Between both me and Casey, we typically go through 4 to 5 batteries in a full day wedding. So you want to make sure that you have enough batteries to cover your day. You don't want to get to the speeches and you've used your last battery and then you can't photograph any of the first dances. So make sure that you have batteries. If you need to, bring a battery charger with you, whether it's a cigarette lighter one that goes in your car. Is that even a thing anymore? Is it called a cigarette lighter or is it just called an adapter in your car? I'm aging myself. But what you need to do is you need to make sure you can charge this. Bring a wall charger and just take it and plug it in all day long wherever you are. Now don't forget it, because then you're going to be out one battery. But it's very important to have charged batteries all day long when it comes to a wedding day. Okay, like Bon Jovi said, we're halfway there. Lighting is important. You're going to go through all sorts of different instances all day long, whether you're in a house or a salon getting ready photos, the church for a ceremony, or it's an outdoor ceremony. You're also going to need to be able to capture in a dark reception hall most of the time. Otherwise, it's going to be very bright and light in the reception hall. There is no like proper reception lighting that I've ever seen. It's either really dark or really bright. So you need to be able to compensate for that with your lighting and using lighting tricks. So make sure that you have speed lights. Those are the lights that attach directly to the top of your camera. Make sure that you have some type of off-camera flash for the family and formal photos. I take my off-camera flash everywhere with me, so the Westcott FJ400. We go out to the parks with it. We go to different museums. We go all over the place with these off-camera flashes with a big octabox on it. This is a little bit of an advanced technique, something that I do teach if you want to learn. Speaking of learning, if you want to learn, make sure you check out the Photog Nation. This is an online academy that I host, that I teach the ins and outs of not only photography, shooting, editing, and the photography business. I'm going to leave a link down in the description down below. If you want to check it out, that's awesome. Super cheap, way less than you'd pay any college class. And it's from the perspective of the hustler, the one who wants to learn fast, wants to make that money, and wants to make a successful business out of this. So check out the Photog Nation at photognation.org. Now back to the video. So it's super important that you have lighting. Multiple types of lighting, even bring LED panels, little LED tubes, all sorts of stuff to be able to create those epic photos, those bangers that you're looking to make. The next thing that I want you to make sure you have is a tripod or a monopod. Now, I don't use a tripod that often at a wedding, but I do use a monopod a lot. And the reason being is if I'm carrying around that 100 to 400 all day, I put it on the monopod and let the camera hang off of it, kind of like you see at sports games or football games or anything like that, where they're walking around with the monopod with the lens on it with the camera on the back of that. That's what I do for wedding days when I start feeling a little worn out and tired towards the end of the day. So they're not that important to me. However, a lot of people do use them when they're doing family photos and the formals and stuff like that to make sure that they have the same angle for every shot, make sure everything's good. Now, the downside behind a tripod is sometimes you get hidden behind it. Sometimes you're not really thinking about where you are and you're not in the moment. You're kind of hiding behind that camera the whole time. And you got to make sure that you're not doing that. That will be an issue because you're disconnecting yourself from what's going on. So you're kind of getting in your own little world. It takes away from the intimacy of booking you and working with you. So tripods are like one of those things that you probably should have with you. I don't really bring them that much, but it is something that, especially if you're starting out and you want to make sure that you're not getting motion blur and you want to make sure you have the same composition every time, bring a tripod, bring a monopod in case you get kind of tired at the end of the day. You can slap your lenses on it, or you can slap your camera body on it and just kind of use it as an extra stabilizer. The next thing that you need in your camera bag, and this only applies if you're shooting with a second photographer or you have an assistant helping you carry lights or stuff, and that's walkie-talkies. This might seem like, why would I need walkie-talkies at a wedding? Like we're not camping, we're not going to a concert. Why do I need walkie-talkies? Well, here's the thing. A lot of times, if your cell phone is on silent, you're not going to hear it. So if your assistant or your second photographer is trying to grab you quickly and say, hey, first look is going on over here, I need you here. If you don't have walkie-talkies, they're probably not going to get you and you might miss an important thing. Now, with my walkie-talkies, we also bring like the little FBI in-ear pieces that a lot of venue, you see like reception halls, they have them. So bring walkie-talkies with earpieces. That way you can hear what's going on at all times. Make sure you invest in some decent ones that will go through walls and up floors. Like if you're in a hotel and they're in the bridal suite on the 5th floor and you're in the reception hall 5 floors down and halfway across the building, you want to still be able to make sure that you can connect with them and let them know what's going on. So bring some good walkie-talkies, bring some earpieces. That way it doesn't, you're not, red team go, red team go. You're more discreet with it, and it looks a lot easier and more professional, actually. So a couple years ago, this would have never been on my radar. Never would have thought about this in a million years. But it is probably the most essential thing that I have in my camera bag, or I should say in Casey's camera bag. We use this every wedding we do, and that's an emergency kit. Now, what does an emergency kit mean? I'm not talking about bringing gauze and a flare gun and all of this stuff. And I'm going to talk about what's in the emergency kit. But before I do that, I want to tell you that this is 100% Casey's idea. She came up with it. She's like, I'm going to put a little kit together to throw in my bag that's going to have all the essentials that we need for a wedding day. So that's what happened. This kit that we have includes thread, needles. It has bandages in it. It has what I refer to, and I think what most people call boob tape. Basically, it holds the dress up and keeps the dress up from exposing anything. It has safety pins in it. It has Tylenol and ibuprofen in it. It has some extra clamps for clamping the back of the dress and all of this stuff. Just little things that we might need throughout the day to make this wedding more successful for both us and the photos and the wedding party. We use the thread and needle almost every week. We use the tape almost every week. All of this stuff has come in handy like more than I would ever imagine. So think about putting together a small first aid kit, emergency kit, wedding first aid kit, I guess you would call it, but an emergency kit. That way people can always know that you're probably going to have something that they need. Another thing before I move on, one of the most important things that we also have in there is a crochet hook. Now, why would you need a crochet hook at a wedding? So a lot of wedding dresses have those loop and buttons where it goes across and it loops up. With a crochet hook, you can give this to mom or maid of honor or whoever's doing the dress. They can use it to snap and pull those loops across and snap the buttons right in. So that is something that has majorly come in handy, and that's the crochet hook. Another important one to have with you on wedding day is a shot list. You want to have a list for yourself of the things that you want to make sure that you capture. So if you open up your phone and you create a note on whatever note program you use and just run down that way, this is the best way to make sure that you capture all the photos that you need on that wedding day, and you don't miss a lay flat of the jewelry and the rings, or you don't miss the remembrance chair of the relative who's passed away. This is all important stuff to this couple that have booked you, and if you forget one of these, it could really make or break their review of you, their thoughts of you. So create a checklist prior to wedding day, or actually walk around, get there early in the morning, walk around and start making notes about this stuff that you need to photograph throughout the day. This is very important. This is going to help you have a smoother day because you're not going to be running around like, oh my God, what do I photograph next? What do I photograph next? This is going to help you out, I promise. Make a shot list. Okay, so we've talked about everything that you're going to need to make the wedding go great. But what about you? You can't forget about you. You can't forget about the importance of you on wedding days, because if you have a bad day, then your wedding is going to have a bad day. So number 10 is probably the most conceited, important part of the day. And that's make sure you have snacks, plenty of water, maybe some beef jerky, something like that is going to keep you satisfied throughout the day, because you're working sometimes 10 to 12 hours a day on these weddings. You need to make sure that you stay okay. Bring Tylenol for yourself if you get headaches throughout the day. Make sure that you're set up and ready to go for a day. So sneak away and have some peanuts or some trail mix or something like that, a protein bar. Bring plenty of water. I can't stress that enough. The other thing in this is comfortable shoes. Make sure that you're wearing comfortable shoes. Now, I have some Johnston & Murphy's. They are dress shoes, but the insides of them are made more like a sneaker or a tennis shoe. So they're super comfortable, memory foam on the inside, but they're dress shoes on the outside. Otherwise, I often wear my black on black Nike tennis shoes. So it's all black, blends in very well. But mostly I wear these dress shoes because they look classy, but they're super comfortable and they match my outfit. So Make sure you have comfortable shoes because you're going to be on your feet all day long. Bring 2 pair of comfortable shoes if you want. That way you have an extra to change into so your feet can kind of feel something different as far as comfort throughout the day. But make sure you have comfortable shoes, make sure you have snacks, make sure you have plenty of water. These are super important. So that right there are the 10 things that you need to make sure that you have to have a great day on the wedding day. This is your pre-wedding event checklist to make sure that you have in your bag or on you throughout the day. When it comes to shooting what is one of the most important days in someone's life, you don't want to hinder your day. You don't want to hinder their day by not being prepared. So take this information, make a note of it, write it down. Also in the comments, let me know if I missed something that I should add to my checklist so I can let you guys know to add it to your checklist. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you, as always, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.